Denise Carmichael thanked me for the $50,000 donation to children's cancer research. In Emily's name, the hand plane went still in my grip. I didn't authorize any donation, I said. She paused, then described the wire transfer, received 2 weeks ago, complete with a letter about honoring my daughter's memory. That night, I showed Vanessa the bank statement. She reached for her wine glass. Her hand trembled. I called Jake. I need you to look at Emily's trust fund. $50,000 just disappeared. Quick pause in the story, tap subscribe, and let's dive back in. I built Sullivan Construction with $12,000 and a used Ford pickup that burned oil. 1988, 28 years old, newly married to Catherine, working 70-hour weeks doing everything from framing to drywall to bookkeeping at the kitchen table after she went to bed. 4 hours of sleep, peanut butter sandwiches for lunch. Every other dollar bought materials and tools. By 1995, we were pulling in $400,000 a year. By 2005, despite Catherine's illness, we were pulling in over $1 million. Not from shortcuts or inflated bids. From showing up on time, doing the work right, standing behind every nail I drove. Customers noticed. They told their neighbors. The business grew because I treated their homes like they were my own. Catherine managed the books while raising Jake and Emily. She'd sit at that same kitchen table with ledgers spread out, Emily doing homework beside her, Jake reading blueprints I'd brought home to teach him the trade. I showed both kids that quality work outlasts the person who does it. Jake learned to read a level at 12. Emily helped me restore vintage hand tools in the garage every Sunday, learning patience and precision. The oncologist diagnosed Catherine with breast cancer in 2004. Emily was 7. Jake was 21, finishing college in Philadelphia. The treatment lasted 18 months. Chemotherapy every other Thursday at UPMC Shadyside. I'd take her in the morning, sit with her during the infusion, bring her home in the afternoon. Emily became her mother's companion during the weeks I couldn't miss job sites. That kid at 7 years old managed medication schedules, learned when to call the oncologist, sat with Catherine during the bad days and never complained. Catherine died in March 2005. The life insurance paid out $800,000. Blood money. For 8 months, the money sat untouched. I signed checks for lumber, drove Emily to school, reviewed job bids at the kitchen table. The insurance statement arrived monthly. I filed it without opening the envelope. I split Catherine's insurance into 2 college savings accounts. $400,000 for Jake's future, graduate school and wedding and whatever else he needed. $400,000 for Emily's college and beyond. Separate accounts, conservatively invested, managed by financial advisors who knew what they were doing. Then I focused on being Emily's father. Volleyball games every Tuesday and Thursday. Helping with algebra homework at that kitchen table where Catherine used to do the books. Teaching Emily to use a tape measure, read a level, understand that a job done right the first time saves you from doing it twice. She grew into a compassionate young woman who volunteered at Children's Hospital, organized fundraisers at her high school, talked about becoming a pediatric nurse. The drunk driver hit her 3 months after graduation. June 2016, ran a red light on Route 19, T-boned the driver's side. Emily died instantly, 19 years old. I don't remember the first month after. Jake came home from Philadelphia, handled the funeral arrangements, dealt with the insurance company, kept the business from collapsing while I sat in my garage workshop staring at the tools Emily had helped me restore. When I could think again, I knew what to do with Emily's college fund. Her $400,000 became the Emily Sullivan Memorial Scholarship Trust, designed to fund pediatric cancer research in perpetuity, honoring both my wife and daughter. Every year, the trust would distribute scholarships to researchers working on childhood cancers. Emily's compassion would outlast her life. In the weeks after Emily's funeral, Richard Chen helped me structure it properly. Strict oversight protocols, with Jake designated as successor trustee. Video recorded signing ceremony in Chen's conference room, both of us on camera as I signed the trust documents. Chen insisted on authenticated signature exemplars, witness acknowledgments, everything documented to protect Emily's legacy. The grief support group met Tuesday evenings in a church basement near Mount Lebanon. Folding chairs, weak coffee in styrofoam cups. People who understood that platitudes don't help when your child is dead. I went because Jake suggested it. Because sitting alone in my house wasn't working. Vanessa was there, 2 seats away the first night, 1 seat away the second week, sitting beside me by the third. She understood the weight. Shared stories about losing her parents young, about grief that doesn't follow a timeline, about people who expect you to be fine after a few months. She listened when I talked about Emily, about Catherine, about feeling like I'd failed as a father by letting my daughter drive that night. We started meeting for coffee after the Tuesday sessions, then dinner on Saturdays. She encouraged me to live again, said Emily would want her father to build a new life instead of dwelling in the past. Vanessa volunteered at charity events, spoke respectfully about Emily's memory, seemed to share my beliefs about honest work and family loyalty. Jake came home for Christmas 2016, met Vanessa over dinner at the house. Afterward, in the garage, he said he'd looked into her background. 2 previous divorces, Dad, credit problems, inconsistencies in what she's told you about her work history. She's been through hard times, I said. People deserve second chances. Her second ex-husband filed a protection order. Financial abuse allegations. Allegations, not convictions. Jake set down the hand plane he'd been examining. Dad, just wait. Give it more time before you do anything permanent. I'm 60. 11 years of empty houses and cold dinners. Vanessa laughs at my jokes. She asks about my day. I need that. I can't support this. We didn't speak much after that. Phone calls became less frequent. Jake stayed in Philadelphia for Easter, for the 4th of July, for Thanksgiving. Vanessa shrugged. He's young, protective. He'll come around. I proposed in October 2017. We married in December, small ceremony at the courthouse with 2 witnesses from my construction crew. Jake didn't come. Said he couldn't watch me make this mistake, that he'd be there when I needed him, but he wouldn't pretend to approve. I set down the phone, stared at the wedding invitation I'd addressed to him, threw it in the trash. 3 weeks after the wedding, Vanessa suggested I add her as an authorized signer on household accounts. For convenience, she said. In case something happened to me, she'd need access to pay bills and manage things. She brought the paperwork to the kitchen table one evening, a stack of bank forms that needed signatures. I signed them while watching the Steelers game. Didn't read every page carefully. Trusted my wife. Emily's trust authorization was in the stack. Signed that one too. How Vanessa positioned herself at the grief group. How she mirrored my values perfectly. How she isolated me from Jake with subtle comments about his jealousy and inability to let me move forward. How she waited until after the wedding to ask for account access. The hand plane sits on my workbench. 1952 Stanley, restored by Emily and me together when she was 15. She'd sanded the tote smooth, helped me sharpen the blade, learned patience through the careful work of bringing old tools back to life. Vanessa tried to steal that too, not the tool itself, the memory, the legacy, everything I'd built to honor the people I loved. My phone buzzes. Text from Jake, landing in 40 minutes. Don't talk to her until I get there. I look around the garage workshop, 30 years of tools, each one a story, each one proof that quality work outlasts the person who does it. Vanessa thought I was too grief-stricken to notice. Too unsophisticated to understand finance, too trusting to question my wife. She was wrong about all 3. 3 weeks after the wedding, Vanessa brought paperwork to the kitchen table. Honey, we should get these household accounts organized, she said, setting down a stack of documents. Water bill, electric, the mortgage. If you're on a job site and something needs paying, I can handle it. Made sense. Household bills. Water, electric, mortgage, standard stuff. I picked up a pen. The Steelers game played on the TV in the living room. Fourth quarter, down by 3. I signed the first form without reading every line. PNC checking account, both names as authorized signers. Signed the second. Joint savings, same thing. The third form had smaller print. I glanced at the header. Emily Sullivan Memorial Trust. Authorized signatory edition. This one too? Just for emergencies, Vanessa said. God forbid something happens to you, I'd need to make sure the foundation still gets their distributions. You set it up to help children. I want to protect that. The Steelers scored. I signed. Years later, when I tore apart everything she'd built, I'd understand what that signature meant. The authentic exemplar. Proof of how my real signature looked. Proof that everything after it was forged. But in January 2018, I just wanted to watch the game. February 2018, Vanessa scheduled dinner with Jake, called him Tuesday afternoon to confirm, 7 o'clock, that Italian place you like in Shadyside. That evening, Vanessa called him again, changed it to 6:30, she told me later. Jake called me Wednesday. Dad, I'm sorry, Vanessa changed it to 6:30 and I've got a client meeting that runs until 7. Can we do next week? Sure, I said, no problem. Vanessa set down her phone when I mentioned it. I called him yesterday, specifically said 7. He's making excuses again. He said you told him 6:30. I said 7. She touched my hand. Peter, look at me. Jake said 7 o'clock Tuesday. I said 7 o'clock Tuesday. Now he's saying I changed it? He's rewriting history. The first withdrawal happened in March, $8,000. Foundation administrative costs, the form said. I saw it on the quarterly statement Richard Chen sent to the co-trustees, called Vanessa about it. Oh, that. She was at yoga. I could hear music in the background. The foundation needed funds for their spring gala. You authorized it last month, remember? We talked about it over dinner. I didn't remember. I'd spent 3 weeks reviewing plans for the downtown project, 60-unit apartment building. Maybe we had discussed it and I'd forgotten. Next time, just remind me before you process it, I said. Of course. I should have checked with you first. 72 hours later, she came home with a new handbag. Tan leather. Kate Spade label. I asked how much. It was on sale. Besides, I've been working hard on the foundation coordination. I deserve something nice. Jake called in May. I was in the garage restoring a 1940s block plane. Vanessa answered. I heard her voice from the kitchen. Warm, concerned. He's doing well, Jake. Really well. The new project downtown is keeping him busy. Pause. No, the trust is fine. Why are you checking up on him? He's perfectly capable of managing his own affairs. She came to the garage after. Jake was asking about the trust quarterly statements. Acting like you can't handle your own daughter's memorial fund. He's the backup trustee. He's supposed to review them. He's treating you like you can't handle your own daughter's memorial fund. She touched my shoulder. I know he's your son, but this is insulting. The July withdrawal was $15,000. Memorial event expenses, the authorization form said. I saw what looked like my signature at the bottom. The upward hook on the S looked right, but something felt off. Vanessa explained when I asked. The foundation is hosting a research symposium in Emily's name. You approved the sponsorship. We talked about it in June. $15,000 seems high. It's a major event. Pediatric oncologists from 3 states. Emily would want her name associated with serious research, not some cheap reception. I signed the next month's bills and didn't mention it again. September, Vanessa called Jake about Thanksgiving. Your dad would love to have you home, she said into the phone. He talks about you all the time. Pause. Of course you're welcome. Your family. She hung up. Jake says he's too busy. Some work thing in Philadelphia. Jake called me that night. Dad, Vanessa told me you didn't want me there for Thanksgiving, that you needed time with just her, building your new life. Never said that. She said you did, that you're tired of me questioning your decisions. Jake, I want you home. Then why did she tell me to stay away? I looked toward the kitchen. Vanessa was making tea, phone already face down on the counter. There's been a miscommunication. There's been a lot of those since you married her. His calls stopped after that. November, December, January. My phone stayed quiet except for work. I told myself he needed space, that he'd come around eventually. The November withdrawal was $22,000. Scholarship program development. I saw it on the statement Chen sent. This time, I didn't call Vanessa first. I looked at the authorization form in Chen's file. My signature at the bottom. The upward hook on the S looked right. The loop in the double L looked right. But something felt off. The pressure seemed different, lighter than how I usually sign. I showed it to Vanessa that evening. You signed it in October, she said. We were reviewing foundation proposals, and you approved 3 new research grants. This was one of them. I don't remember. She set down her wine glass. Peter, you've been working 70-hour weeks on that downtown project. You're exhausted. We've talked about you needing to slow down, maybe hire another project manager. My memory's not that bad. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying you're stretched thin. That's why you added me to the accounts, remember? So I could help manage things when you're overwhelmed. She pulled out a folder. Inside were 3 grant proposals, each with notes in my handwriting. I recognized my printing on the margins. Questions about research methodology, timeline, budget justification. See? You reviewed these. You were thorough, like always. You just don't remember because you've been carrying too much. I looked at my notes, my handwriting, my questions. She was right. I had reviewed them. I just didn't remember signing the authorization. March 2019, Lululemon yoga pants. June, Kate Spade handbag at the kitchen table. September, Burberry scarf I'd never seen before. By December, her closet looked like someone else lived there. You're spending a lot, I said one Saturday, watching her unpack shopping bags. I'm investing in myself. My therapist says women often develop scarcity mindset after trauma. I'm working on abundance thinking. I run a construction company. I think in budgets. And that's wonderful for business. But we're not a business, we're a marriage. You work hard. You deserve a wife who takes care of herself, who you're proud to be seen with. I went to the garage, picked up a 1938 smoothing plane that needed the tote refinished, ran my thumb over the crack in the wood. Emily and I had found this one at an estate sale when she was 16. Paid $12. Spent 3 Sundays restoring it together. Vanessa appeared in the doorway. I'm not trying to upset you. I just want us to enjoy life. Emily would want that for you. Don't speak her name, I thought. But I said nothing. The 2020 basement renovation was Vanessa's idea. That wall behind the utility sink is water damaged. We should fix it before it gets worse. She hired contractors I didn't know, managed the project herself. I was busy with a strip mall renovation in Cranberry, didn't pay attention. The new wall panel looked fine. Drywall, paint, clean work. I never thought about what might be behind it. Years later, when I tore that wall down, I'd find what she'd hidden there. Bank statements, dozens of them. But in 2020, I had no reason to look. By early 2021, I'd stopped asking about withdrawals. The quarterly statements showed regular distributions to the foundation. Chen never raised concerns because the authorization forms looked legitimate. My signature, my approval. He had no reason to question them. Jake didn't call anymore. Vanessa suggested a trip to Santorini, showed me photos on her laptop. White buildings, blue water, hotels that cost more per night than I paid my apprentices per week. Maybe next year, I said, after the Cranberry project finishes. She closed the laptop. You always say next year. Business is good, but not fly to Greece good. We could use the foundation funds. Call it a research trip, visiting international pediatric cancer programs. I stared at her. That's Emily's money. Emily's gone, Peter. The money is just sitting there. I stood up, walked to the garage. Didn't come back inside until she was asleep. The next morning, she apologized. Said she'd been stressed, wasn't thinking clearly. I accepted it because I wanted to believe her. That's what I told myself later, that I wanted to believe. But the truth was simpler. I was tired of questioning, tired of checking statements, tired of missing Jake, tired of wondering if I'd made a mistake. So I stopped wondering, went to work, restored tools, signed what Vanessa put in front of me, told myself the marriage was working because the alternative meant admitting I'd failed again. 2 years later, Denise Carmichael called about a $50,000 donation I never authorized, and I finally understood what I'd been signing. The phone rang. I set down the 1952 Stanley handplane, sawdust still clinging to the blade. I pulled my cell from my pocket. Unknown number, Pittsburgh area code. Peter Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan, this is Denise Carmichael from Children's Cancer Research Foundation. Her voice was warm, professional. I wanted to personally thank you for the extraordinary donation in Emily's name. I gripped the edge of the workbench. The $50,000 will fund 3 pediatric oncology research grants, she said. It's the largest single contribution we've received this year. Your daughter's legacy will help so many children. The phone felt heavy in my hand. I didn't authorize any donation. Silence on the line. Then, I'm sorry, I don't understand. We received a wire transfer from the Emily Sullivan Memorial Trust 2 weeks ago, November 8th. It included a letter about honoring your daughter's memory through cancer research. I set down the handplane, picked it up again, set it down. I never authorized that. Oh, a pause. The transfer came from the trust account. It had all the proper documentation. Can you email me everything? The transfer details, the letter, all of it? Of course, right away. I gave her my email address. Ended the call, stood in my garage staring at the handplane Emily and I had restored together when she was 15. $50,000 from Emily's trust. Without my authorization, my laptop sat on the workbench where I'd left it that morning. I opened it with shaking hands and logged into the trust account. The quarterly statement loaded. There it was, November 8th, wire transfer to Children's Cancer Research Foundation, $50,000. I clicked on the transaction details. An authorization form loaded on screen. There, at the bottom, my signature. Except, it wasn't my signature. The upward hook on the S matched my signature. The loop in the double L matched, but the pressure was wrong, lighter than I signed. The K had too sharp an angle. I'd spent 35 years reading blueprints, catching measurement errors, spotting the difference between what plans showed and what contractors actually built. This signature was close, but it wasn't mine. My email pinged. Denise Carmichael had sent the documentation. I opened the attachment. The wire transfer confirmation, a letter on foundation letterhead thanking the Sullivan family for their generosity, and the authorization form with that almost right signature. Something cold settled in my chest. I saved the files, closed the laptop, went back to the house. Each step deliberate. Vanessa was in the kitchen making dinner. She looked up when I walked in, smiled. Designer yoga pants, Kate Spade bracelet catching the light, hair styled even though she'd supposedly been home all day. How's the plane restoration going? She asked. I set my laptop on the granite counter I'd installed in 2010, opened it, turned the screen toward her. I got a call from the Cancer Foundation today. They wanted to thank me for the $50,000 donation. Her hand stopped halfway to the wine glass. Half a second, then she picked it up, took a sip. What donation? I clicked on the bank statement, the highlighted withdrawal, the authorization form. This one, from Emily's trust, 2 weeks ago. She set down the glass and leaned forward, studying the screen. Her face showed confusion, eyebrows drawn together, head tilted slightly. I don't understand what you're asking me. I'm asking about this withdrawal, $50,000, to the Cancer Foundation, with my signature on the authorization. Oh? Her expression shifted, confusion to understanding. Honey, you approved this in September. We talked about it over dinner. You wanted to do something special for Emily's birthday this year. I thought you'd be pleased. I never mentioned that. You did, back in September. We were having dinner and you said Emily would have wanted her trust to help children with cancer. You said you'd been meaning to make a larger contribution. I kept my voice steady. I don't remember that conversation. She touched my hand. Peter, you've been working 70-hour weeks on the downtown project. You're exhausted. That's exactly what we talked about. Honoring Emily's memory through action. Moving forward together. Those were your words. The phrases sounded familiar from our grief counseling sessions. The therapist had used that exact language. Why didn't you ask me first? I did. You said to handle it. You trusted me to manage the foundation distributions while you focused on work. I watched her face, her gaze fixed on the laptop screen, the counter, the wine glass. Anywhere but my face. I need to see all the trust documentation, I said. Every withdrawal, every authorization form. Of course. I'll get you copies tomorrow. She squeezed my hand. I know this seems like a lot of money, but Emily would want her legacy to help children. You know that. I closed the laptop. Vanessa went back to making dinner, humming softly, confident she'd handled it. I went to my office, sat in the dark, pulled out my phone. Jake's contact was still there. I hadn't deleted it despite 18 months of silence, despite Vanessa's comments about him abandoning me, despite the manufactured arguments and missed holidays. I pressed call. He answered on the first ring. Dad? His voice carried surprise and concern. No hesitation, no questions about the time that had passed. I need you to look at Emily's trust fund, I said. King, something's very wrong. Jake's rental car pulled into the construction yard at 9:47 a.m. I watched from my office window as he got out, two aluminum cases in hand. He'd driven through the night from Philadelphia. We stood in the parking lot for a moment, 18 months since I'd seen him. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. New lines bracketed his mouth that hadn't been there before. He set down the cases and hugged me. I'm sorry, I said. We'll fix it. He picked up the cases. Let's see what we're dealing with. In the conference room, Jake spread 7 years of trust documentation across the table, color-coded folders. Red for withdrawals, blue for authorization forms, green for quarterly statements Richard Chen had sent to the co-trustees. He set up 2 monitors, connected them to his laptop. Financial analysis software loaded on both screens. Walk me through the $50,000, he said. I showed him Denise Carmichael's email, the wire transfer confirmation, the authorization form with my almost right signature. Jake scanned the document into his system. The software analyzed it against authenticated signature exemplars from the 2016 trust execution. Numbers populated across the screen. Pressure patterns, letter spacing, stroke velocity, 18 deviation points, Jake said. The upward hook on your S is too shallow. The loop in your double L is compressed. The K angle is 7 degrees off your natural signature mechanics. He pulled up another document, the January 2018 household account authorization I'd signed while watching the Steelers game. Oh, this one's authentic. See the pressure pattern here? You bear down harder on upstrokes. The forged signatures don't show that. They're traced or practiced, but whoever did them couldn't replicate the muscle memory. I stared at the 2 signatures side by side. Mine, not mine, both looked right to casual inspection, but the software saw what I couldn't. How many withdrawals are we talking about? I asked. Jake pulled up a spreadsheet, started running queries against the trust account database. Transaction after transaction populated the screen. The coffee went cold. Outside, the construction yard crew broke for lunch. Jake didn't look up. He worked for 4 hours. I brought fresh coffee, watched the numbers accumulate, didn't speak. At 2:15 p.m., Jake leaned back in his chair, rubbed his face with both hands, stared at the ceiling for 10 seconds before speaking. 47 unauthorized withdrawals, he said. Starting March 2018, ending November 2023. Total amount stolen, $687,000. The room went quiet. $687,000. Nearly all of Emily's trust. Nearly everything Catherine's insurance money had funded. Nearly everything meant to help children with cancer. Show me, I said. Jake walked me through the pattern. Small withdrawals at first. 8,000 in March 2018, 15,000 in July, 22,000 in November, then larger amounts, 30,000, 45,000. The November 2023 withdrawal that triggered Denise Carmichael's grateful phone call was the biggest single theft. Each withdrawal included a forged authorization form. Each signature showed the same deviation points. Practiced, consistent, wrong. Jake pulled up file properties on the scanned authorization forms, creation dates, modification timestamps, software version information embedded in the files, digital fingerprints Vanessa hadn't known existed. These weren't signed on paper and then scanned, Jake said. They were created in Adobe Acrobat on a home computer, then printed and photographed to look like original documents. He showed me the digital fingerprints. The IP address traced to my home network. Jake opened another program, Transaction Flow Visualization. Red lines on the left monitor, blue lines on the right, money flowing like water through pipes, splitting into tributaries, pooling in accounts that existed only on paper. Watch this, he said. Trust funds withdrew on specific dates. Within 24 hours, matching amounts appeared in accounts for something called Sullivan Family Consulting, LLC. Then the money dispersed. Wire transfers to luxury car dealerships, credit card payments to jewelry stores, cryptocurrency exchanges, direct transfers to personal accounts. Sullivan Family Consulting is a shell company, Jake said, registered in Delaware, along with 13 others, all with names designed to look legitimate in bank records. He pulled up documentation. Emily's Legacy Foundation, Sullivan Memorial Services, Pittsburgh Charitable Trust Management, each one a hollow entity. No employees, no physical address, just bank accounts that received stolen money and sent it elsewhere. The timing pattern is damning, Jake said. He overlaid the withdrawal dates with credit card statements he'd subpoenaed. Vanessa makes luxury purchases 48 to 72 hours after each trust withdrawal, every single time, for 5 years. I watched the visualization, red lines showing trust money flowing out, blue lines showing luxury spending flowing in. The correlation was perfect. There's more, Jake said. 180,000 went to Strand Luxury Motors in Wexford, 3 vehicle purchases over 4 years, all paid through shell company wire transfers. He pulled up the dealership documentation, Mercedes, BMW, Audi, each one titled to Vanessa or the shell companies. I set down my coffee. Strand. The name meant nothing yesterday. Now it meant everything. Who's Philip Strand? I asked. The dealer. I'm running background now. I stood up, walked to the window, looked down at the construction yard where I'd built a business through honest work, where I'd taught apprentices to read blueprints and use levels, where I'd believed hard work and integrity mattered. The basement, I said. Jake looked up. What? Vanessa renovated the basement in 2020, insisted on managing it herself. Hired contractors I didn't know, wouldn't let me help. We drove to the house. Her car was gone. Yoga class ran until 11. In the basement, I found the wall panel she'd installed behind the utility sink. New drywall, fresh paint, covering what she'd claimed was water damage. I got a crowbar from my truck. Jake helped me tear down the panel. Drywall dust filled my lungs. I coughed, kept pulling. The panel cracked, fell away in chunks. Behind it, a plastic storage box. Inside, 64 monthly bank statements, shell company accounts, printed on home office paper instead of official bank stock. Each one showed deposits from Emily's trust and withdrawals to luxury retailers. In the margins, Vanessa's handwriting, running totals, future withdrawal calculations, notes like, after March transfer and need $30K more for Santorini trip. Jake photographed every page. Bagged them as evidence. She documented her own crimes, he said. Probably thought water damage would destroy them eventually. We drove to Richard Chen's office. He was waiting. The original 2016 trust documents spread across his conference table. Chen's office smelled like old books and furniture polish. The kind of place where documents mattered more than people. I witnessed Peter sign these, Chen said. I have video recording of the ceremony. 6 authenticated signature exemplars on witness acknowledgement forms. He reviewed the forged authorization forms Jake had brought. Chen removed his glasses, polished them on his tie, set them down without putting them back on. These signatures are not Peter Sullivan's, he said. This is systematic criminal fraud. Chen pulled out a legal pad, started drafting his expert declaration. His handwriting was precise, methodical. I'll testify, he said, without hesitation. Back at my office, Jake made calls. 2 prosecutors, 2 banking regulators, to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. Jake hung up with the prosecutor, checked his watch. 6:15. His phone buzzed. The subpoena came through as a PDF attachment. By 8 p.m. he had something else. Safety deposit box 2847, Jake said, rented by Vanessa Chen in March 2015. Before we met, I said, 1 year before, bank access logs show 23 visits between 2016 and 2023, always within days of major trust withdrawals. Jake filed for a court order. Judge signed it at 9:30 a.m. the next morning. We met the bank manager at 10 a.m. She led us to the vault. Open box 2847. The manager's hand shook slightly as she signed the evidence log. This wasn't normal procedure. She knew it. We knew it. Inside, 43 pages of signature practice sheets, dated May through November 2015. Early attempts crude, later pages refined. Vanessa's handwritten notes in the margins. More pressure on upstroke. K-hook needs sharper angle. A burner phone. Text records to someone named Philip Strand. Messages about our future together and planning trips to Bali. Messages mocking me as too stupid to notice the theft from his dead daughter's trust. 5 spiral notebooks. Luxury travel itineraries. Santorini hotels. Maldives resorts. Bali villas. Each page meticulously researched. Dates corresponding to trust withdrawals. Margin notes like, after February transfer clears, and once March distribution processes. Jake photographed everything. The bank manager witnessed the inventory, signed the evidence log. We drove back to my office in silence. That evening, Jake spread the complete case across the conference table. Jake closed his laptop, stacked the folders. 47 forged signatures, shell companies across 3 states, hidden bank statements, safety deposit box contents, 6 months of signature practice before she'd introduced herself at the grief group. We have everything, he said. Premeditation, ongoing criminal intent, consciousness of guilt. She practiced your signature 6 months before you met her. I looked at the evidence. Years of systematic theft. A relationship built on fraud. A dead daughter's charitable legacy stripped to fund an affair and fantasy vacations. What happens now? I asked. Jake closed his laptop. Now we call the prosecutor. And Vanessa learns what happens when you steal from the wrong family. He hugged me before he left. First time in 18 months. I realized I'd been wrong about a lot of things. But I've been right about one. My son knew how to finish what someone else started. The next morning, Jake and Richard Chen met with the Allegheny County District Attorney. I waited in my truck outside the courthouse, watching people climb the limestone steps. Lawyers in suits, defendants in street clothes, families holding hands. My phone buzzed at 10,047. "They're filing charges," Jake said. "All of them." I sat in my truck. The limestone steps hadn't changed. Same lawyers in suits, same defendants in street clothes, but everything was different now. When? Monday morning, arrest warrant signed. FBI's taking the interstate banking fraud, states handling forgery, theft by deception, abuse of fiduciary relationship. 47 counts. 27 counts. I ended the call, started the truck, drove to my construction yard and sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, watching nothing. That evening, Jake spread papers across my kitchen table. Arrest procedures, timeline, what would happen and when. Sunday morning, he said. She'll be home. We'll have 2 detectives in unmarked cars outside. You tell her you want to discuss the foundation donation again. Keep her talking until they're in position. What if she runs? She won't. She thinks she's smarter than you. She'll try to talk her way out of it like she always does. I looked at the papers, legal, language, procedural steps, the machinery of justice reducing 7 years of theft to checkbox items. What do I say to her? Jake met my eyes. The truth. You know about all of it. Every withdrawal, every shell company, every forged signature. Sunday morning arrived cold and clear, November light through the kitchen windows. I made coffee, waited. Vanessa came downstairs at 9,015, wearing Lululemon yoga pants and a cashmere sweater. Her hair pulled back in a casual ponytail. She poured coffee and checked her phone. I'm meeting Melissa for brunch at 11, she said. Then we're going to that new boutique in Shadyside. I set down my mug. We need to talk about the foundation donation first. She looked up. We already discussed that. I want to go through it again. She sighed, set down her phone, sat across from me at the table where I'd signed those household account forms 5 years ago. Peter, you're fixating. The grief counselor said this happens when people don't process their emotions properly. Walk me through the authorization process, step by step. You approved it in September. We talked about honoring Emily's memory through action. You said you trusted me to handle the details while you focused on work. I watched her face, the concerned expression, the slight head tilt, the performance I'd seen 100 times. I know about all of it, I said. Every withdrawal, every shell company, every forged signature. Her face went still, her mouth opened slightly. Then her eyebrows drew together, head tilting. What are you talking about? $687,000. 47 unauthorized withdrawals. Shell companies in Delaware, Pennsylvania, and Florida. The safety deposit box you rented in 2015. The signature practice sheets. All of it. She stood up. You're not making sense. Jake traced every transaction. Richard Chen authenticated my real signatures against your forgeries. The district attorney filed charges Friday morning. Jake. She said his name like a curse. He's been poisoning you against me since the day we met. This is what he does. He makes you doubt yourself, doubt us, because he can't stand to see you happy. I stayed seated, kept my voice level. The detectives outside have a warrant for your arrest. She went to the window, looked out at the street, saw the unmarked cars. When she turned back, anger had replaced confusion. After everything I've done for this family, I held your hand through your grief. I was there when Jake abandoned you. I made this house a home again. And this is how you repay me? You stole from Emily's trust fund. I managed the foundation distributions while you were too overwhelmed to handle them yourself. That's not theft. That's being a partner. I stood up, walked to the counter, picked up the folder Jake had prepared, opened it on the table between us. These are the authorization forms. 47 of them. Every signature is forged. The pressure patterns are wrong. The letter spacing is inconsistent. You practiced for 6 months before we met, but you couldn't replicate my muscle memory." She looked at the papers. Her hands shook. "We can fix this," she said. Her voice changed, softer, desperate. "We just need to talk to the foundation. Explain the misunderstanding. I'll return the money, all of it. We can work this out together." She reached for my hand across the table. I pulled away. "The detectives outside have a warrant for your arrest. You stole $687,000 from our daughter's memory. I will never forgive that." The front door opened. 2 detectives in plain clothes. Jake behind them, Vanessa backed against the counter. "This is insane. Peter, tell them this is a mistake." The first detective held up the warrant. "Vanessa Chen Sullivan, you're under arrest for forgery, theft by deception, wire fraud, and abuse of fiduciary relationship." He read her Miranda rights while the second detective moved behind her. She looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. "Please, we can fix this. Families forgive each other. That's what Emily would want. She'd want her father to show mercy." I looked at her for a long moment. 7 years of lies. The grief group where she'd found me. The signature practice sheets dated before we met. The stolen money. The affair with Philip Strand. The notebooks planning vacations to Bali. "Emily wanted to help children with cancer," I said. "You stole that from her. You don't get to speak her name." I turned and walked back inside the house. Through the window, I watched them handcuff her in the driveway. Designer yoga outfit, highlighted hair, manicured nails. The carefully constructed image crumbling as the handcuffs closed around her wrists. Neighbors appeared in windows across the street, watching. The same people who'd brought casseroles after Emily's funeral, who'd congratulated me when I remarried, who'd seen Vanessa at the grocery store, the yoga studio, the charity events. Now they watched her get arrested. The courthouse arraignment happened Monday afternoon, 4th floor courtroom. The gallery filled with South Hills community members. People I'd known for 30 years. Contractors, clients, parish members. The same people who'd attended Emily's funeral 7 years ago. Vanessa wore an orange jumpsuit. Her hair needed washing. No makeup, no jewelry. She kept her eyes down as the prosecutor read the charges. 47 counts of forgery. Systematic theft totaling $687,000. Wire fraud across state lines. Abuse of fiduciary duty. The judge reviewed the evidence summary. Set bail at $500,000. Vanessa's public defender requested reduction. Cited her ties to the community. Her lack of criminal history. The prosecutor stood. "Your Honor, the defendant has systematically stolen from a charitable trust over a 5-year period. She established shell companies across 3 states. She practiced the victim's signature for 6 months before initiating contact with him. This was premeditated, ongoing fraud. She's a flight risk." The judge denied the reduction. Vanessa couldn't make bail. All her assets were frozen under seizure orders. I walked out of that courthouse into cold November air. Jake beside me. The same limestone steps I'd climbed Friday morning. Justice wasn't loud. Wasn't dramatic. Just methodical. Documented. Inevitable when you built the case right. I'd done what I set out to do. Protected Emily's memory. Ensured consequences. The rest would be up to the legal system. 2 weeks after sentencing, the court-appointed receiver arrived at my house on a Tuesday morning. Margaret Walsh, mid-50s, carrying a tablet and a leather portfolio. She moved through each room, tablet in hand. No pause at the wedding photos. No comment on the custom kitchen I'd installed. Just numbers on a screen. 3 vehicles registered to Vanessa Sullivan or shell company entities, she said, making notes. Mercedes S-Class, BMW X5, EDA 6. Original purchase price $180,000. Current market value approximately $127,000. Luxury goods depreciate fast, especially when they're bought with stolen money. She photographed the jewelry next, opened Vanessa's dresser drawers, the velvet boxes stacked like evidence. Kate Spade bracelets, Tiffany necklaces, designer pieces from Pittsburgh retailers whose receipts Jake had already subpoenaed. 87,000 in documented jewelry purchases, Walsh said. Resale appraisal will likely come in around 34,000. The market for used luxury goods is soft. I stood in the doorway of the bedroom I'd shared with Vanessa for 6 years, watched a stranger inventory everything my wife had valued, everything she'd bought with my daughter's money. Designer clothing and accessories, Walsh continued, opening the walk-in closet. Lululemon, Burberry, Kate Spade. Estimated value $56,000 based on receipts. Actual liquidation value will be lower. She moved through the house like she'd done this before. Probably had, cataloging the wreckage of other people's crimes. Marital home equity, she said. Your name on the mortgage, both names on the deed. Current equity approximately $178,000. Mrs. Sullivan's half is subject to seizure. $89,000. The numbers accumulated on her tablet. Vehicles, jewelry, clothing, home equity. Plus, the frozen accounts containing $142,000 in remaining stolen funds. Total recoverable assets, approximately $520,000. We'd lost $167,000 to depreciation, cash withdrawals, and transfers that couldn't be traced. Money spent on dinners I never attended, trips I never took, a life Vanessa had planned with someone else. I'll have the final liquidation report within 30 days, Walsh said. All proceeds will be transferred to the Emily Sullivan Memorial Trust for the restitution order. She left. I stood in the empty house. Our house, except it had never been ours. Just mine, and now partially the state's. My phone rang 2 days later. Jake's name on the screen. Philip Strand took an immunity deal, he said. I set down the hand plane I'd been sharpening. What does that mean? He testifies against Vanessa, provides dealership records, text messages, everything. In exchange, the DA drops the accessory to money laundering charges. What's in the messages? Jake was quiet for a moment. You sure you want to know? Yes. Their affair started in 2019. She told him they'd travel the world together once she'd secured her financial future. Those are her words. Secured her financial future. I gripped the workbench edge. There's more, Jake said. She called you too stupid to notice. Said she was stealing from your dead daughter's trust and you'd never figure it out. The garage went quiet. Just the sound of my breathing and Jake waiting on the other end of the line. When does he testify? I asked. Preliminary hearing is next week. Trial starts in February. The preliminary hearing happened in a smaller courtroom. Fewer people. Just the judge, prosecutors, defense attorney, and Vanessa in her orange jumpsuit. Philip Strand wore an expensive suit, car dealer polish. He wouldn't look at Vanessa when he walked to the witness stand. The prosecutor pulled up text messages on a screen. Strand's phone records. Conversations spanning 4 years. Can you read this message from March 2021? The prosecutor asked. Strand leaned toward the microphone. Vanessa writes, another $30K cleared today. Bali is getting closer. Peter's too stupid to notice. The defense attorney objected. The judge overruled. And this one from July 2022? Strand's voice was flat. She writes, I'm stealing from his dead daughter's trust, and he thinks I'm managing foundation distributions. We'll be in the Maldives by next year. I sat in the gallery, watched Vanessa stare at the table, her shoulders hunched, hair grown out showing dark roots. No manicure, no designer accessories. The judge bound her over for trial. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. Cameras, microphones, questions I didn't answer. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette ran the story the next day, front page of the local section. South Hills woman accused of stealing $687K from stepdaughter's cancer research trust. They used Vanessa's booking photo. No makeup, orange jumpsuit. The woman who'd spent years cultivating an image of sophisticated elegance reduced to a mugshot. The article detailed everything: the shell companies, the forged signatures, the affair with Philip Strand, the luxury purchases, Emily's trust. My phone buzzed all morning. Contractors I'd worked with for 30 years, clients, parish members, people offering support, people expressing shock. Vanessa's yoga studio friends stopped acknowledging her. The charity auxiliary boards removed her from membership lists. Country club guest privileges were revoked. I saw the article shared on Facebook, comments from people who'd known us, known her. I always knew something was off about her. Poor Peter, first his daughter, now this. She seemed so nice at the grief support group. The trial started February 12th. Same fourth-floor courtroom as the arraignment. Community members arrived an hour before proceedings. Filled the gallery. The same people who'd attended Emily's funeral 7 years ago. Richard Chen testified first. Explained the trust structure, the dual signature requirements, the video-recorded signing ceremony, the authenticated signature exemplars. The prosecutor showed him the forged authorization forms. All 47 of them. Are these Peter Sullivan's signatures? She asked. Chen removed his glasses, polished them on his tie, put them back on. No, these signatures lack the distinctive upward hook on the S. The loop pattern in the double L is compressed. The pressure distribution is inconsistent with Mr. Sullivan's natural signature mechanics. He testified for 2 hours, never wavered under cross-examination. Jake presented next. Set up his laptop, 2 monitors, visual exhibits showing money flow through shell companies. The pattern is consistent across 5 years, he said. Trust fund withdrawal on a specific date. Within 24 hours, matching deposit to a shell company account. Within 72 hours, wire transfer to luxury retailers or cash withdrawal. The exhibit showed it in color-coded charts. Red lines for trust withdrawals, blue lines for luxury spending. The correlation was perfect. The defendant made 47 unauthorized withdrawals, Jake said. Total theft, $687,000. Philip Strand testified on day 3. Read from the text messages. Described the affair. Explained the vehicle purchases. She told me the money came from her husband's business, he said. She said he was wealthy and didn't pay attention to spending. The prosecutor pulled up more messages. Did she ever mention the source of the funds more specifically? Strand nodded. She said she was taking it from a trust fund, her stepdaughter's trust. She said Peter was too grief-stricken to notice. The defense attorney tried to create sympathy, argued marital financial stress, suggested I give an implied consent for the withdrawals. The prosecutor played the video of the 2016 trust signing ceremony, showed me explaining each provision to Richard Chen, asking detailed questions about distribution requirements, signing carefully while Jake witnessed. Does this look like a man who would give implied consent to unauthorized withdrawals? The prosecutor asked. The jury deliberated for 3 hours, guilty on all 47 counts. The sentencing hearing happened March 15th. The courtroom was more crowded than during trial. People wanted to see the end. The judge reviewed the pre-sentencing report, looked at Vanessa sitting at the defense table, orange jumpsuit, hands folded, eyes down. This court has reviewed the evidence and the impact statements, the judge said. The defendant engaged in a systematic, premeditated theft spanning 5 years. She forged signatures, established shell companies, stole $687,000 from a charitable trust meant to honor a young woman's memory and help children with cancer. Vanessa's shoulders shook. Mascara streaked her cheeks. The bailiff handed her a tissue. She didn't take it. This represents a complete betrayal of trust, the judge continued, a desecration of a young woman's charitable legacy. The court sentences the defendant to 8 to 12 years in state prison on the forgery and theft charges. Federal wire fraud charges will run concurrent. The judge set down the sentencing document. Restitution is ordered in the amount of $687,000 plus interest. All seized assets will be liquidated and transferred to the Emily Sullivan Memorial Trust. The defendant is permanently prohibited from serving as a trustee or fiduciary in any capacity. The bailiff led Vanessa away. She looked back once. I didn't look away. I watched the bailiff lead her away. Felt nothing like victory. Just the quiet satisfaction of a job finished. A problem solved. Outside, I stood on the courthouse steps. Same limestone I'd climbed 6 months ago when Jake first showed me the evidence. Justice wasn't loud. Just methodical, documented, inevitable when you built the case right. The seized assets would restore Emily's trust. The prison sentence would ensure Vanessa never did this again. That was enough. If my story got you hooked, smash that like button and comment. March 2025. 12 months after Vanessa's sentencing, I stood in the Children's Cancer Research Foundation lobby holding a dedication plaque, brushed aluminum with black lettering, Emily Sullivan Memorial Research Wing. Denise Carmichael stood beside the foundation's staff, watching me work. Most people would hire someone for this, but I'd built this wing with recovered money. I'd placed the plaque myself. The recovered $520,000 after legal fees and asset depreciation, combined with continued investment growth. The first major capital project her trust had funded. 3 pediatric oncology research grants operating in the labs upstairs. I held the plaque against the lobby wall, checking the level. The bubbles centered perfectly. A little higher on the left, Jake said. I adjusted, marked the mounting holes with a pencil. Pulled the drill from my tool bag. The drill bits sank into drywall, then brick. I set the anchors, mounted the plaque, stepped back, Emily's name on the wall. Thank you for being here, Denise said. I nodded, packed my tools. Sunday morning, Jake arrived at the construction yard at 8, brought coffee and bagels. We ate in my garage workshop. Maria's completing her apprenticeship next week, I said. Jake set down his coffee. The first scholarship recipient. Yeah, 19 years old, learning Finnish carpentry. Does quality work. I pulled a hand plane from the shelf. Stanley No. 4, manufactured in 1947. I'd restored it the previous weekend, working late in the garage while thinking about Emily. New blade, refinished tote, smooth as glass. This is for her, I said. Jake picked it up, ran his thumb along the sole. Catherine's college ring caught the light on his right hand. He wore it openly now. You're teaching me next, he said. I handed him the 1938 smoothing plane Emily and I had found at an estate sale. Ran his thumb along the crack in the wood I was teaching him to repair. Showed him how to refinish it. We worked in silence. The rasp of sandpaper on wood, machine oil smell, winter light through the garage window. The new trust protocols are working, Jake said. Video recorded authorizations, quarterly audits, public reporting to the foundation. Richard Chen presented the case at 3 conferences last month, using Emily's trust as example of both proper documentation and the importance of family communication in preventing exploitation, helping other families avoid what happened to us. I set down my tools, looked at my son learning skills his sister once knew. I spent 7 years thinking I'd honored Emily by building that trust fund, I said. But standing in that research wing with her name on the wall, I realized I'd finally done right by my daughter. Jake stopped sanding. Emily believed in helping others, I said, using whatever you have to make things better. Vanessa tried to steal that, but she failed. I picked up the 1947 hand plane, tested the blade against my thumb. Emily's legacy isn't in a bank account. It's in every child that research helps. Every apprentice who learns honest work, every person who remembers that quality and integrity outlasts the people who practice them. Jake set down the sandpaper. That's what she taught you. That's what she's still teaching. I'm 64 years old. I buried a wife and daughter. Been betrayed by a second wife. Spent a year in courtrooms watching justice happen. But I'm not done building yet. There's still work to do. And I know how to do it right.